Hey everyone, how's it going? Gildart here, and I am so ready for the second annual Musou May. Last year, I did a week's worth of videos reviewing Dynasty Warriors 2 through 8, and that was a little taxing on my sanity, mostly because I didn't start it until January of that year. This year, I'm being a lot smarter, and I'm doing 4 videos, and I'm spanning it over the whole month. And of course, last year I did Dynasty Warriors. It only makes sense to do Samurai Warriors.
The first Samurai Warriors came out after Dynasty Warriors 4, but before Dynasty Warriors 5. This meaning that I was at the top of my classic Warriors hype. When Samurai Warriors was announced, I was kind of getting into my weeb path. I was getting into Inuyasha, trying to find new anime and manga to dive into, and most of all, getting really interested in Japanese history and culture. So the fact that Koei announced a Warriors game based during one of the most well-known wars in Japan got me excited. But how was it compared to Dynasty Warriors? I know I already did a comparison and the game sold pretty well, but let me get into the first pro. The first thing that I have to mention is the combat system. Probably the most different thing about this game compared to Dynasty Warriors. When you first start off with your beginning weapon, it feels very familiar. But then when you get your second weapon, instead of it saying 5 hits, it says 6? The fuck? Did I just get the full combo on the first stage? Nope. Samurai Warriors combos goes up to 8 hits. The first 4 charge attacks also having extensions as well. So you can hit square, triangle, triangle, triangle to do an aerial combo, similar to the Dynasty Warriors C5. However, I found in Samurai Warriors the combos are much more stylistic, and this goes all the way up to C4, to which if you continue to press square, you'll attack an additional 4 times with no charge attack between those. It's refreshing to see a different combo system being used. Then there's the fact that there's a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th weapon. You can unlock a 4th weapon just randomly like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. This weapon looks a little cooler, and it's stronger than your 3rd. Nothing special past that. The 5th and 6th weapons are the ones that you have to do a specific thing on a specific stage with a specific character on a harder difficulty. Samurai Warriors also adds castles into its stages. Some levels will no longer be on one map. They'll be inside of a castle running from room to room, revealing the map as you explore the tower. This is used really well in Hanzo's story as you explore the castle, eavesdropping on officers. There's also a survival mode where you can see how many levels you can go on one life. Lastly, something I have to mention as a minor improvement are the missions within each stage. You may have seen them on the minimap as I've been playing. The rippling nodes on the map are objectives that give you extra experience when you clear them. On top of that, most of these battle objectives help you as clues to unlock the 5th and 6th weapons. It's been a mainstay of the Samurai Warriors series and has even found its way into other spin-offs. God! Fuck custom characters. Not the idea of them in a Warriors game. I very much like creatable characters, but when you make a custom character, you kind of want to, I don't know, customize them? When you create a character in Samurai Warriors, you just pick an avatar, most of them just being variations from each other, and some are actually unlockable. Not many, but some. When you choose a character model and a name, you get placed into this weird training thing. This serves as a fairly decent tutorial, but definitely not as a character creation. You're essentially picking which stats you want to focus on when you finally get to take this character into a full-blown stage. Plus, to unlock the other models, you have to increase your stats pretty decently, then kill an enemy that can only be killed with Musou attacks, just to get another model that you can't make any changes to. At least the custom characters get their own story, but it's not really a story at all. They're more like a wandering swordsman who appears in various battles in history. Also, you can only equip a generic officer weapon. None of the playable character weapons are actually selectable. Just sword, spear, and naginata. The naginata is the only weapon I actually enjoy using. The sword is alright, and the spear, my favorite weapon, sucks the driest, most shriveled balls. Dynasty Warriors 5 Extreme Legends Destiny mode? Gimme that shit. But in the case of Samurai Warriors, fuck custom characters. Pro! As I said in my review for Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada, Samurai Warriors as a series has always been a step above and beyond that of Dynasty Warriors when it comes to the actual story. And as the first entry in the series, this is an epic debut. Since there are fewer main characters, the narrative of Samurai Warriors can focus much more on developing the characteristics of the depictions of these great warriors. Each character feels so significant, even the ones that aren't playable like Hideyoshi, Nagamasa, Ieyasu, and Yoshimoto. Even though Hideyoshi and Yoshimoto do get the playable character treatment in Extreme Legends, and Ieyasu and Nagamasa in Samurai Warriors 2, they still have a very specific personality that feels so vastly different from the cast we have in this entry. Then there's just how gritty the story feels. I find the Warriors games have always had this campiness thing going on, but it's refreshing to feel the harshness of a civil war in this game's narrative. Each character feels like they want to get past the fighting, even if it's in their own way. This game definitely portrays the bleakness of war very well. Stages are tinged in grays and browns, and character costumes look dirty and well worn. While playing through the game, you'll get the feeling of a wasteland overrun by war, even with the odd joke thrown here and there by characters. It's just a quick comic relief before the game instantly slaps you back to reality. As I said, Samurai Warriors has more opportunities to flesh out their characters with their smaller roster. I find with Dynasty Warriors it can be difficult to say exactly what certain characters are like because they rarely appear in the story, but each character in Samurai Warriors shares their time in the limelight equally enough that you feel like you truly know them all by the end of it. There are obviously some characters who get a lot of focus, like Yukimura and Nobunaga and so on, but even the more minor playable characters have their personalities well represented. One of my favorite characters is Kunoichi. Just so much sass. She's my waifu and I'll never leave her side.
I think we should see other people.
But... No! Don't go! God!
I know this is going to sound weird, but I don't like these voices. Not the voice acting. The acting is top-notch and really drives the story, but what I can't separate are these voices from the Dynasty Warriors counterparts. Sun Shang as Oichi, Cao Cao as Nobunaga. I just can't help but hear them as the character they played in Dynasty Warriors. I understand why they kept some of the voice actors that they had already hired. They might even be a little bit cheaper than hiring a completely new team. But still, I feel like some of these actors should have been replaced. Hearing the same voices from Dynasty Warriors only makes me want to go back to Dynasty Warriors 4 and play more of that. Like, yes, Lord Cao Cao, I will set up the muskets. Ma Chao, you seem to really like the color red. Meng Huo, when did you become a generic officer?
I come forth!
I just wish that they hired a different batch of voice actors than this, because all I do is match them to their Dynasty Warriors counterparts. If the voices were different, it would give the game more individuality. Separate it more from Dynasty Warriors and possibly make it feel like its own game rather than a spin-off of a series I already enjoy. I know it was considered a spin-off and probably wasn't even considered to make it an entity of its own in the vast repertoire Koei has built over the years, but if they had given Samurai Warriors its own life, its own blood, its own cast, I feel like this entry would have been considered its own thing right away rather than inspired by its predecessor.
Pro!
I mostly played the Xbox version of this game because the PS2 just isn't built to output progressive visuals. The Xbox version looks so much better when you have component cables. That being said, you can emulate the game and get visuals that are kind of close to the Xbox, but not quite the same quality. The reason why I mention this is because the Extreme Legends expansion never came out on the Xbox, so you're going to see some different visuals right now. See, it is a little bit blurry, not quite the same as running on native hardware, but definitely better than the quality you get from PS2 naturally. And yes, you are seeing a widescreen mod. It's really cool and it's built by a guy who goes by Milord on Discord. Now on to what I really think of Extreme Legends. It is amazing. This Extreme Legends is very similar to my thoughts on Dynasty Warriors 3 Extreme Legends. New characters, new story, new weapons. This gives us everything an Extreme Legends title should. If you're primarily playing this on PS2, I recommend you pick this up and expand what you get out of this game. Not only do Hideyoshi and Yoshimoto get their own weapons and story after being unique NPCs, we get Tadakatsu Honda, the Lubu of Japan, and his daughter Ina. When you play stages from the vanilla version, these characters are updated, and it's great to fight Tadakatsu when he's not a generic. And running into Yoshimoto and Hideyoshi feels good as well. It's really cool that they went the extra mile to change the assets of the vanilla stages to include these new characters and weapons. I know it's not a big deal, but it's the little things that help this expansion get the pro spot for me. Con! This next con isn't very harsh, and though it's not the killing point of the game, it does bring down my enjoyment for it. Like many modern Warriors titles, Samurai Warriors has an RPG-style leveling system. You gain experience, level up, and your stats increase. You also gain skill points and so on. Very usual for Japanese games nowadays. But the thing is, you don't want to gain experience. And if you want to go for maxing out your characters, you're going to be resetting them very frequently. First off, you gain more stat increases and skill points by doing certain things on the battlefield, like reaching a higher kill count or completing all the missions. If you also beat the stage within a certain time, you'll get a better boost. Essentially, you want the highest grade at the end of each stage to get the most out of every character. And you don't want to level up too soon, because once you reach the highest level, you can no longer get the boosts or skill points. It's insane that someone not only thought this would be a good system to implement, but also created it. What sort of deranged mind thinks of this kind of stuff? Let's make it so the player will be playing our game for decades to come. I know that's a thought that some developers have, but you also want your players to move on to the next game you release. You also want to make sure that they don't move on too soon. I don't think I've ever maxed out any character in this game, and there is no way that I'm going to do that either. Sorry, Koei, but there are other games in my life that I need to beat, let alone complete. The first Samurai Warriors game is probably the best case scenario when trying to make a spin-off with a lot of changes to the usual formula. We've had several other Warriors spin-offs and none of them have hit the mark quite like Samurai Warriors. The fact that this game came out during a time in my life when I was getting more interested in Japanese culture, history, and media means it holds a lot of nostalgia for me. Samurai Warriors was enough of a deviation from Dynasty Warriors to feel refreshing. Nothing felt like it was too much of the same thing. Though there are some flaws in my opinion, like carrying over some of the voice acting crew from Dynasty Warriors and completely flubbing the custom characters, the experience of the original Samurai Warriors was still great. On top of all that, I've been enjoying Samurai Warriors more thanks to playing this game during and after my time with the No Map Challenge. And hey, if you haven't seen those videos, click the card in the top right, it'll take you to a playlist. I always thought it was cool to be able to turn off the map and try to figure out where to go, but putting it into a Let's Play challenge made it that much more fun for me. Now, with all that being said, I give Samurai Warriors, along with the Extreme Legends expansion, a 7 out of 10. Though the grays and browns of the color palette in this game give it a more realistic look, after a while it does get a little bit boring. The custom characters are disastrous and almost insulting. But overall, this is a solid starting point for the series. Adding Extreme Legends really explodes what's available to you and increases the value of this game. Again, if you have a PS2, you should get both. But if you only have an original Xbox, you're still gonna have a good enough time with the vanilla version. I feel like I should also mention that there is a PSP game that goes with this entry, and it's probably my personal favorite of this style of Warriors handheld game. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited that we're into the second year of Musou. What do you guys think of the first Samurai Warriors? Did you play the hell out of it when it was first released like me? Who's your favorite character? If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and if you're not already, why not think about subscribing? You can also check out the link to my Patreon on the screen, as well as a playlist of all the Koei Tecmo videos I've ever done. Thanks again, everyone, and I will see you all down in the comments.
Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Chris Gildart here, and I am so ready to get started with the second annual Musou. Last year, I did a week worth of
Can you raise both arms? Could you not have a stroke?